All right, all right. Good afternoon. We are live in this digital realm. Welcome. I so I have um a different uh prepared well, not really. It was kind of on a whim, but if you can see what's on my screen here, let me make sure it's up there. So I just added it, and if you can see this, it just looks like some, you know, like a piece of plastic that's been heated up, right? And there's these little bubbles here everywhere, and it looks like you got some darker areas here that may have been charred or that rose up higher, along, and they just didn't bubble up and pop. They just kind of rose up depending on how long the heat was on it. It's just what it looks like to me. I'm describing what I'm seeing if I'm looking down at something, right? And the piece of plastic started out blue, and as it heated, the vibration increased, creating different colors and different um, augmented spots in the plastic, like deformed spots, deformation. But this is actually, if you could see the name down here, I took a screenshot. It's psychedelizationism, right? Psychedelizationism. And I used to have a hard time saying that name, but hey, buddy, if you're watching, I'm just putting your work out there, to give to put recognition on you because you did come up with this idea, right? Um, I'm going to run with your idea, right? But I'm going to kind of, if you don't mind, put my spin on it a little bit and see if some new ideas pop up in people's minds, right? So if this is our unknown realm, right? And we are in one of the smaller realms, which you know, it does say we live in a circular, and God's throne is above the circle of the earth, not the sphere, right? So if this is a 2D representation of a top-down view, then we can maybe draw some conclusions from it. Now, if you guys seen my last the stream before last I did, I spoke of the plasma light coming from our realm, right, or our wider realm, and all that energy and plasma being focused in on a certain point that we would call the moon. Okay, and the moon seems to have something in common with what I believe is a similar representation like this, with all of the bigger and smaller circles on the moon, is very, very much in common of what we call the stars. Now, if there is a firmament up here and the light from this bigger realm has a point of light reference, plasma light, and it's a very small one. This is bigger, the moon is smaller, and then the moon projects it outward in all directions onto what we would call the firmament, right? The dome. And you would see as the moon travels up and down, right, and round, let's just say like this, and our realm is here, and as it moves, like in a sine wave, as the sound is projected into the ether and into the atmosphere, and it kind of moves up and down like this. It's hard to do on a 2D representation, but let's say the moon moves up and down like this in a wave like pattern, like a sine wave like pattern. Okay, then in turn, as it moves in angles, right, it's going to make it look as if there are stars moving around like this. And they say that there's a 25-degree tilt or whatever, 24.3 or 23.4, whatever it is. There's a tilt that goes back and forth depending on where you're standing on the Earth. Well, I think literally as the moon goes in its circuit up and down, the stars will seem as if they wobble, right? But there's a stable point called Polaris, okay? And that's going to come from wherever we're at here. So think about that. It's just an idea. And I want to show you a few pictures that I've downloaded that I can put up here on the big screen. I wish I could do it while the big screen was up, but um, it doesn't allow me to do that. So with this in mind, this picture over here, with it in mind, let's start looking at some of these. Let's see other pictures. Let's see. No, let's just click on that. It should pop up there. Yep. Let me remove this. And just where you can see this now, maybe I could do that while this is in, it says in full screen mode, new private messages will appear. No. Well, maybe I can just skim through like pushing arrows or whatever. Let me push an arrow, see if it switches. Left, right, up, down. No, I'm not going to be able to do it in motion, but okay. So let's just look at this and based off what I said a minute ago, it being the flat part, the greater realm is in this, more dense area where everything coalesces, where the toroidal forces coalesce, and then they fractalize as they go down, seen in nature in the phi golden ratio and golden spiral, in everything in nature. All right, even in the body. All right, I don't want to get off topic. So what he is proposing here is that there is more than one firmament, right? And inside each firmament, there are circuits that the energy is focused up upon. So, like with our moon in our firmament, I would say the primary middle firmament, it projects up onto, let's just say, this is the moon down here. This is our realm, Earth's field, right? And as it's projected into a point, okay, a point source light, it has a bunch of what we call craters. There's an outer circle. There's another circle, right? Let's say this is the outer circle of Saturn. There's another inner circle, okay? Then there's a center circle, and in ours there's a Mount Meru in the center. Now, let's just use Saturn and our moon as an example. Saturn has its own orbit within the greater firmament, right? That is over, but it's projected onto, right, whatever's on the ground outside of Earth, like over here. See these two bands? This land here that is greater than the Earth's field, okay, would its energy, its plasma energy that comes through, would project it upward just as the moon is, okay, and it's on another firmament up here. And this is only a light that represents what is below on the ground position. Okay? So this works for all quote unquote planets and their moons. Okay? These are projected up. There is a land, I think, or at least in this presentation, um, psychedelizationism, he's proposing and other people are proposing there is extra land, okay? And however its toroidal field moves will be its orbit projected up onto its firmament, its own firmament, because there's several, but we know of 7, quote unquote, from historical texts. Our toroidal field and Earth's field, centralized, or centralized at least in the in our dome here, which would be our dome, which goes over the top of it. Okay, I would say that we can see at least 7 representations of lands below the orbit and what we can see projected up onto, because we're below here, right? And we can see up on here where, or at least how the orbit happens, like this. Just follow my mouse. You know, this being Saturn up here, and then Jupiter down here would be a little lower on its own, projected up onto its own dome firmament, right? And then it has an orbit, but it stays up here. I'm doing a low circle, but it stays up here in its orbit, right? Its own toroidal field. Now imagine the land below where Jupiter's represented would be like this. There would be lines and sand dunes and stuff like that. So as the representation goes round and round, it looks like that red eye that's on there moves because it's up here. No, right? The toroidal field is moving it, and we just see the light and energy projected up onto, quote unquote, let's say the screen, right? The screen, the etheric field called the firmaments. All right, let's back out of this one. Let me go get another example. This is going to be deep. I always go into deep topics. So buckle up, Dorothy. We're going on a ride. Let me close this. Go to comments. Can you guys give me a 5x5, whoever's in here, and let me know if you can hear me okay, if everything's coming through. If there's just too much background noise, it's not going to be perfect because my fan is going above me. But I see one person here. Thank you for being here. Just let me know if it's 5x5, or just give me a thumbs up or a 1 if the sound is okay. I like to try to do that. That way I don't talk for an hour and then it doesn't work in the finished process. All right. I'm just going to go back, change the pictures. I will come back to the comments. Please, whoever is in here, give me a thumbs up or a 5x5 to let me know my voice is coming through. It seems to be, it looks like it there on my thing, but I always want to be safe. Let's go to the next picture of the representation of these toroidal fields and firmaments. I'm just showing how it could work, and I'm building upon this man's work that you see up there, psychedelizationism. He's a big guy in the FE community and alternative views as well. So this here is a guy named Leslie's work. He's showing a slice of going downward. If you were to slice downward, like through an apple or something, in the middle, you see the seeds and all that. And you see the direction of the toroidal field and how it works. So this would be a vertical slice. So you can see here if you were here standing, let me make this big. I'm gonna give a representation. Try to make it easy so you can visualize this, okay? If you're on the ground, this is the ground, the line going through here. This would be the surface of Earth, okay? The land. And if you were standing here in the center of the uh, equator, physical equator here, and if you took a zenith, which means straight up measurement, 90 degrees, and you're looking with your eyes straight up, okay? This has got to be simple. straight up. Okay. Down here, I'm going to show you. You're centered here, looking straight up. And you see how these red lines curve over? Curve, curve. This is called a toroidal donut, a torus. Okay. These are fractal. Okay. You're standing here. Right across here is the Earth, right? Right across there. If you're standing looking straight up through this toroidal force, you would be here, okay? Land, U, M, Donald's arches, okay? M. This is cut in half, okay? Vertically cut in half so you can see inside of it. Now, there are pictures which I will show in just a second. Real pictures, not AI. You will see two opposite rotating fields, which is one in the same. It's one field, okay? If you were to look this way, you have a spin like this from left to right, right? Left to right. And it's spinning like this. There will be a dot in the middle of what I'm going to show you in just a minute. It is real, guys. Southern Star doesn't have to necessarily mean a opposite pole, right? Like a bipole. It doesn't have to. It's not like it's set in stone. You will see a star here with from left to right rotation. And funny enough, if you stay in the same position, you're on the physical equator in 90-degree zenith, meaning celestial equator in the sky. There's a physical and there's a metaphysical, which is the sky, the dielectric field, the black. Okay? Funny enough, if you do not move your ground position and you just look, you turn your head to the right, what do you see? A center of star called Polaris. It's just the way it is. You can't change it, bro. It's real life. All right. Now looking to the right, you see a right to left rotation, right? In a circle right here with a center point. Do you know why everyone gets this confused? It's because a torus donut is doing an up and around motion, right? Anywhere that you slice it in the middle, say I turn my back to this point and I look like in the opposite direction, okay? This would be, I'm looking due west up in the sky, a westernly direction. But here's how it tricks everybody and it fools everybody. And everybody's like, oh, it's this or that. As I go up in elevation with my eyes, okay, up this way, west, you're going to catch an endpoint, okay? And you're going to ride that endpoint all the way around until you come back to exactly where you are, but you put your back to the west now, looking due east. It would do the same. It would go up and it would come towards you in this instance, right? You're still here, but it would go up and towards you, okay? And you would come back around to your original point because why? It's observer dependent, okay? That torus donut is there. It's metaphysical, but you have to do time lapses, right? To get a concurrent line that shows you what's going on. But the torus, it's a donut. So you're going to have 2 points of reference. You're going to measure it. It's fractal on small scales, microscopic. This happens at electron microscope levels as well. You can measure, and these 2 points will be what? Guess what? Take one wild guess. It will be phi related, 1.618. So the whole, right, of this, not like a hole, but the whole of this donut, this torus, right, as you scale down, will always be 1 to 1.618 ratio. You can't change it, bro. It's been measured by this point, I'm sure billions of times. Okay, let's get small again. Let me go back small. I know I'm saying a lot, but if you put two and two together and you do your own research, right, I'm going to give you some examples, but I can't hold your hand. Okay, I can only guide you and say, please go look at this right here. If you are here in the center, 90 degrees upward, you would find Polaris, right? But funny enough, if you're way, way over here doing a measurement and you happen to be looking due west, okay, that's very important, looking due west, and it was at night, and you looked left, right, at this blue circle would be your southern star in the center. And funny enough, if you don't change, you're looking due west, you don't change your ground position, and you look right, you're going to see Polaris here in this donut. It's only a half and half that you'll see. You won't see the full donut because it's observer dependent, and you would have to put your back to where you're looking to see the rest of the donut, right? Which would be this half, curving, observer dependent. If you walked backward to the North Pole and you did your measurement, you would still be in this northern star trail position. But the further north you got, the more centered you got on our known realm is when everything would invert. And these northern stars would be seen in the outer positions instead of what you're seeing straight up. It's giving you a perfect circle above your head, star trails, right? And then the people in the south are seeing the same thing you're seeing, except on the horizon as you went away, right? On the horizon, what was once here would get lower and lower and lower until the star trail picture would be warped and all off. It wouldn't be the perfect McDonald's arches like you would see looking or walking your way toward the equator. See, the equator is the key point that is the telltale sign of the star uh, trails and what you're in, what you're inside of. Star trails are going to tell all at the equator and up. But from the equator, moving what we would call further and further south, um, things would get very wonky because of the firmament. Okay? It would throw off what you see. Now, let's move on to another picture. Hopefully, you guys are catching on. Let me go to comments. I see two comments. Give me 1 second and I will respond. RG, hourglass, purple, sand, orange, octopus. Okay, let me put it up. Octopus red waving. Okay, thank you for that. That gives me a very cool visual in my mind. All right, Series Business 2351. Howdy, back at you. Howdy. High five in the virtual air. Okay, I know it's squeaking when I move. I have to move because my diaphragm doesn't work very well. So being quad, I have to get into my words. So I may move and you may hear some rant, rant. Speaking of that, can I get a 5x5 if everything's coming in good? And I'll get right back to the presentation. Since I don't hear any squeaks. Okay, cool. Jeeps, can you hear me okay though? Am I coming in 5x5 or 4x5? All right, good. Good, good, good. 5 by 5. Now I'm going to get back to the media assets for you. Let me take down the howdy so we have a clear picture. All right, here we go. I'm jumping back in it if there's no questions. And if I see something pop up in comments, I'll try to get back to it as quick as I can. Let's see what this is. Yes, it's okay. If it's the screen, well, I'm going to make it big. For each picture, I'm just going to give a brief description and skip through these because there's quite a few. All right, this is the top view down. This is the breathing of our atmosphere. The etheric, what you would see, medium, if you could draw connecting lines, like ley lines, okay? This would mean it's starting to open up, right? This right here in a magnet, in a ferrocell, you can always see these dark spots, right? Right here. They call it a black hole, right? And all this is represented here is starting to really expand, and it's going to give you some interference lines, right? You see these lines, outer lines, right, of the torus is the first, I would say, expansion to allow these then to quantize and fractalize and breathe on their own. This is the owl eyes symbology that the elites know about. This is why they have the owl, because they have the knowledge of power and they charge us for it. Same thing here. See, the line is just talking about 90-degree zenith and equatorial, the cross section here, the dark black line going across. And if you extend this down, then you have your cross symbology, okay, Mount Meru, stuff like that. Same thing here. If you extended this arrow instead of up, going down in the north, the McDonald's arches or the eyes of the owl. Okay, keep that in mind. These elites, 33 degrees, when the stuff melts, their knowledge dissolves of what all 32 lower teachings have. And when you get to 33rd, you start to really understand that the 32 before were there just to confuse you and keep you out of the loop. And no, I am not of those groups, but I do have my own mind that I study with, and I'm not in the group of group think, let's say that way. Okay, there are a lot of smart people out here. This is why it's why I recommend other people's work that I believe are in it for the right reasons and they've been in it long enough to know, and they're not able to be bullshitted by the group. Okay, all these fake fuckers out there that want confusion and want you to feed in to what they say, and they're going to keep showing you over and over, even though they say it's bullshit. They feed you mainstream media like they're against it. You know what I mean? And yeah, there's some in this community that I won't uh, get tangled with, and I won't fight with and get their attention on me. I would rather just say the right things. Okay. What are you showing? Um, so what I'm showing, Jeeps, if, sorry, uh, this is just three representations, right, of the same inner message that there are, I think, other firmaments, and what we see against them, what they call the stars. There are some that move in different ways, and the Father said they that was their punishment, to not be in phase, let's say it like that, with all the other stars, the luminaries that know their positions and kept them. These were symbolized as that was their punishment, and their movement is now forever out of sync with the rest, right? So we know of seven. We try to say we're planet moving like that, but I seem to have came to the understanding that we are the stable position that everything else is measured against. So if the moon wobbles and stuff, it could just be a center point of plasma light, okay, that's being bounced on and through, creating um, almost like a sponge, like a piece of cheddar cheese, right? And if you follow me with that, then what's being done is our energy, our Taurus is being shined right up through the moon, or it's creating the moon. This center point is being the light and plasma from us is being shown up to the middle and producing the moon, like shining down. But everything's happening. This is just a halved, like cut in half, toroidal, instance. Same here. So right up this line, we would have what we call the sun and moon. And thus, damn it, trying to get this. So that's what's shining up through our platform, our realm, right? This line, just follow my mouse. This line, okay, is Earth, is the denseness that allows us to walk on it in these bodies, right? So up here in the sky would be the moon projecting further up onto other uh, plat- platforms, but firmaments, and you see the stars. But you also see these, what we call planets, and these planets are just from the realm, okay? Light showing up through it, okay? In the south, we have, you know, uh, where some of these planets, the planets, what they call planets, are further out, and then we have the planets that are closer to the center, Mercury, Venus, stuff like that. But they're represented on the bottom side of their ceiling, right? Which is called the firmament, but they have their own. There's seven different layers, we're told, and Saturn being one, Jupiter being one. But what I'm saying is this is the only center spot of the fractal verse, right? That, like Jay Dreamers calls it, fractal verse. But this line here is where all things exist, and there's plasma being shown up through here, and then on the underbelly of what we call the dome or domes, you would see things like this, okay? And the center point being drawn through here, just follow my mouse, is the same line right through the middle. Sorry, I'm bad at this. But right through the middle of this realm okay, is the same exact representation of here. It's the center line. Okay, everybody cool with that? Moving on. Okay. I'm going to let a video play because I'm hurting and I'll be right back to you. All right, here we go. This is exactly what I'm talking about. You see, this little spot here, and yes, it is that small, guys. There's no huge, imaginably large, you know, things in the sky, okay? But down below, it a lot of land comes to it makes it come to a point. That's what we see here, the energetic signature of the plasmatic land, and the densities within it are the spots that we see. Like, you know, if there's different metals at different frequencies and densities, it'll give off a different wave, right? Different wave. So that's why we would see little spots on things. Okay. All right, moving on. Just going to pop up some more pictures and try to add some valuable information to this presentation that psychedelizationism did. All right, here we go. You could think of them as celestial, uh, celestial, energetic fields. He calls them electromagnetic fields. Highly reflective. So it's one inside the other, and you can see this rippling, through. It's something that is very valuable. Here, once again, here's the line, the dividing line, which we would call the block domain wall, right through the center there. Okay, and it's shown in magnets. We can demonstrate that several millions of times, right? All right, let me zoom on down. If any ideas come to you guys, please let me know and we can talk through them, walk through them. Okay, here we go. Okay. So basically, there is a mirroring effect that happens as above, so below, and it creates this. And I can show you examples of Lecrae, uh, magnetic Bowl arrays that he uses. It does create when putting opposite polarities against each other in a bowl shaped, not a circle shape, but a bowl shaped magnetic fields, and you use these neodymium magnets offset, it will create a motor with no moving parts, guys. It's a toroidal fields that come right at each other. So if you took the point here and you put a bunch of magnetic, from big to small to the edge here, and then you flipped the bowls against each other, where they're against each other, they're not closed up like this. They're flipped, if you can imagine, the opposite way against each other. And you hit it with some electricity and you have different gases going in, it's going to rip the electrons off of the gases, individual particles, right? And create what? Plasma. Plasma field. It can create things that have rings around it, right? Keep it in mind. Saturn. There we go. That's me standing one day with my digital twin there. Okay, Saturn. Back to Saturn. I can give you a demonstration of what I mean. See what this is. Okay, that's meeting points. This explains the analemma, okay, on these different, vectors, though, as you go outward away from the center, start to get this effect, right? As it travels different spots. There you go. See, like Saturn with the field line around it. That can be done on a smaller scale, like I just explained. Okay, guys? It's not like we can't reproduce the energy field of what are called planets. We can in a lab very easily. So this needs to be talked about more and validated as a much more validated theory than heliocentrism. Okay. They can make up stuff, but we can show it physically. I don't think you guys can do that and show seasonally the energetic signature of quote unquote planets. You can't do it. We can. All right, but anyway, I'm gonna mute up and let the video play. All right. Let me take this off of the screen and we'll jump back to it. Let me see the comments and then I'll show a video because it's definitely needed right now. My side is hurting. Let me get something up on screen here. Let me take this off. That way it looks as if you guys are talking to me. All right, comments first, and then I'll move on to the video. Right here, I got you, Jeeps. Yes, Toronto. I keep it as interesting as possible. Now, let me put my banner up here because I want this to stay in people's minds all the time. If that's all right with you guys. Let me go back to comments. Somewhat similar to what Lindsay puts out. Yes, Big Pine, that's absolutely correct. And actually, in just a couple of the examples, you will see his cut in half torus donut is, rode in coil basically, and block domain wall. He is definitely in here, especially the center strip. Yep, no sound. You say no sound? Can you hear me okay now, Big Pine? Because it looks like it's lighting up when I speak. You mean no sound on the video I was playing, or on the video you were playing? Gotcha. All right, let me cut this out right quick. Um, I hear you the whole time. Okay, cool. Let me stop the screen of this because I'm doing entire screen. Now I'm going to go to the video and I will mute up myself as it plays. If you don't hear it when it plays, guys, let me know. But this is something that we definitely need to watch. All right, thank you for, yeah, it says block my screen, but let me close that out. I want to go here and open the one I'm speaking of. Whoops, not that. But I'm going to add a video. Just give me 1 second. Bear with me. Let me go to YouTube, and then I will go to, tell you what, let me go to that one. What is it called? Oh yeah, let me go to my videos. Sorry, I was drawing a blank there for 1 second. Okay, give me 1 second. There we go. Here it is. Okay, studio, my video. Nope, let me go here. View on YouTube. There we go. And then let me add to screen over there. Back up, back up, back up, back up. Let me unmute this. Sorry guys, just taking a second. So this goes into what I was just speaking of, but you're going to hear it from the mouth of the man himself. Let me make this bigger. Well, once I go here. Sorry, this takes a lot, you guys. Damn it. Oh, go. There we go. Go. Oh, okay, stop playing, you guys. Okay, with my stuff. Let me go here. All right, now I'm going to share screen. Bear with me, you guys. This is, I believe, it's titled Universal FE Model, which just to me means fractal, and it means usable at any scale, basically, to compare with. All right, here we go. Able to share tab audio, hitting share. Let me know if you guys can hear this, okay? But anyway, here we go. All right, let me add it. Okay,
all
here
and
we go.
everything in our realm connected. And we argue that Atum is the true model because we
Chat,
live in
put
a
a 5 by
two-letter
5,
tomb.
please, if you can hear it.
So Atum is an anagram of atom, Atomb, which is also an anagram of the famous name Adam, Adam, like Adam Kadmon, which is also an atom, Atom.
Right? And
So
what does that mean,
scientifically
Toronto?
speaking, the
Is it
atom,
a 5 by
as we all
5?
know, is
4
defined
by 5?
as all
Please
that
let
is
me know.
indivisible, meaning the single most
Low
deductible
volume.
unit. So atom means the one, aka the monad. And ironically, by the way, monad is also an anagram for the name Adam, which is atom, which is atum. Now, we all know that language encodes reality in
I
the
can hear it
sense that
okay. You're just going
language
to
is
really
like
have to tune in,
ritualistic
okay? I'm
linguistic
going to
alchemy.
restart it,
So, knowing the
but you
esoteric
are
nature
really
of
going to have to
language is
listen, pay attention,
comprehending
please,
that spelling,
because it
words,
won't go
and
up
letters
any.
are all can be seen as fluid expressions of one unified monadic logos,
He
or the
must have
divine
just
word,
recorded
or
low.
the word of
Okay,
God.
here we go,
So,
though. I'm going to
language,
restart.
in its most primordial expression, was never simply just a tool for communication. It was a metaphysical lattice, an encoded matrix of vibrational correspondence, sacred geometry, and cosmic intelligence. So, in the
I,
ancient world, the
I'm going to
invention of letters
restart.
was a revelation,
You guys
a hieroglyphic
super,
descent
super pay
from the
attention
higher
to it
divine
because
into the lower
it's
material
very
symbolic.
intriguing.
So
I'm going to
letters
prove my
were
points, what I
actually
was just saying a
regarded as
minute ago.
capturing living
Exactly
archetypes,
what he
each
says
carrying
is
genetic value and ontological
is
form.
applicable
Dynamo is
to a lot of
consisting
things.
of toroidal geometry.
All right, here we go. Okay, I'm gonna just let it play. I'm gonna mute up. Maybe that'll help you hear it a little better. All right, so here we go. Okay,
Cosmic Familia, welcome back to Psychedelicizationism. I hope everyone is doing well in good spirit. In this video, we're going to talk about the atom as a magneto dielectric dynamo that is consisting of toroidal geometry, hyperbolic structure, and ethereal flow. Now, there exists a coherent flat earth model that connects the heavenly cosmos with the nature of reality as well as with the human anatomy, originally articulated by the Egyptians as a tomb, but expressed atomically from Ken Wheeler as a fourfold quadrupolar magnetodielectric hyperbolic toroidal system. The Egyptians used to say that all is a tomb. ATUM. Atum indicated the all and everything in our realm connected, and we argue that Atum is the true model because we live in a toroidal tomb. So Atum is an anagram of atom, ATOMB, which is also an anagram of the famous name Adam, ADAM, like Adam Kadmon, which is also an atom, ATOM. So, scientifically speaking, the atom, as we all know, is defined as all that is indivisible, meaning the single most deductible unit. So, atom means the one, aka the monad. And ironically, by the way, monad is also an anagram for the name Adam, which is atom, which is atum. Now, we all know that language encodes reality in the sense that language is like ritualistic linguistic alchemy. So, knowing the esoteric nature of language is comprehending that spelling, words, and letters are all interchangeable. So, words can be seen as fluid expressions of one unified monadic logos, or the divine word, or the word of God. So, language, in its most primordial expression, was never simply just a tool for communication. It was a metaphysical lattice, an encoded matrix of vibrational correspondence, sacred geometry, and cosmic intelligence. So, in the ancient world, the invention of letters was a revelation, a hieroglyphic descent from the higher divine into the lower material symbolic. So letters were actually regarded as capturing living archetypes, each carrying phonetic value and ontological force. So the ancients believed that the vibratory signature of a letter could be transposed, mirrored, recombined, or transcended to access higher and deeper layers of intention and meaning. And this gave rise to the art of what is called anagrammatology, the rearrangement of letters to unveil something intentionally hidden. Anagrammatology is the focus on anagrams, employing a word, phrase, or a name by forming or rearranging the letters of another second word so that the two separate words connect as an anagram. It's like a hidden layer to structuring language or words. So essentially, a single word can possess a multiplicative double entendre, showcasing either the monad, the one, or the dyad, which is the two, better known as the demiurgos. The demiurgos is the god of two, who, in terms of energy, reveals himself as the god of redshift and blue shift. Red and blue are the two opposing vortical polarities of the atom in the toroidal description. So every atom contains a red polarity and a blue polarity, with the white light spectrum emerging from the primordial black light, a double multiplicative entendre. So, based off of the work of Ken Wheeler, he explains that all phenomena in nature may ultimately be described as dynamic interactions between the foundational properties of dielectric permittivity, capacitance, resistance, and magnetic permeability. These four field characteristics define the behavior and structure of energy, motion, and form across all scales, from microscopic interactions to macrocosmic systems. And so we observe this process in nature where unity divides in order to express itself. Points of energy, called atoms, notice the anatomy of the human body is anatomy, and we also have a torso, which is an anagram of Taurus, referencing the Taurus field that emanates from the center of the atom and from the center of our hearts. So Taurus is torso, and anatomy is a body composed of atoms. So when you recognize that the true model of the universe is the torus field, which in itself is an atom, you understand that through this energy field expressing itself in a time continuum like manner, that all things are engaged in this very same process, and that everything in our reality is a torus field, essentially. This is the fundamental process that is occurring across the entire earth at all times, in every moment, in everything. As Ken Wheeler explains, the magnetoatomic model, or the toroidal model of the atom, in essence, is an electromagnetic field that is oscillating at trillions of cycles per second, thereby generating the perceptual illusion of solidity. The perception that everything is solid material is an illusion. So, likewise, the Earth itself functions analogously to an atom, a torus field, a massive, huge torus field that is possessing its own electromagnetic field oscillating at a specific frequency enveloped by the broader frequency cycles of the luminary bodies over the course of their celestial cycles. So all that is perceived as physical is in fact an inversion of counter space. We're going to get into counter space a little bit later. So all matter, basically everything that seems to be solid, is actually sustained by hidden perpetual motions. Atoms undergo continuous cycles of polarization and depolarization and may be best understood as oscillating perturbations, pulsating between defined polarity points. That actually the idea where two poles come from. However, this oscillation between poles is not a binary or a static bipolar condition, but rather it is a dynamic inversion of counter space. And this ongoing process of polarization and depolarization is inherently reciprocating and precessional, taking the form of a hyperboloid structure, simultaneously repelling and attracting through both polar extreme points. So it is from this configuration that the concept of the toroidal hyperbola emerges. The energy within the atom both reciprocates and oscillates simultaneously due to its intrinsic polarizing nature, manifesting into what modern science likes to call a north and a south pole. But yet there really is no such thing as a north pole and a south pole. This entire energetic dynamic is at its core an inverse expression of counter space. So, in rethinking the architecture of Earth's electromagnetic system, the toroidal model offers a paradigm shift from the globe based geomagnetic deceptions. The Earth is a living, conscious, multidimensional being. You have to be able to perceive the Earth as flat, round, and hollow with dimensions contained within it at all times together at once, existing in multiple dimensions simultaneously. The plane that we live on is flat, a flat dielectric inertial plane. The structure it resides in is spherical and hollow in nature, while the universe that it sits in is concave and expanding. All of the models combined in one. And the higher that your personal frequency is, and the higher that you activate your multidimensional self or your upper stranded DNA, the more you will see the true form of Mother Earth or Mother Gaia, a living Merkaba, a living, breathing, pulsing, sacred, geometric, morphogenetic, hologrammatic matrix womb that reflects and mirrors your consciousness level. Perception creates our reality. So we have the waters above and the waters below, partitioned by the firmament. And this firmament or dome is composed of paramagnetic liquid oxygen and antiferromagnetic solid oxygen simultaneously, forming a stratified crystalline barrier within the etheric architecture of the heavens. So rather than conceiving Earth's magnetic field as a simple dipole arcing symmetrically from one north pole to one south pole, from one polar extremity to the other, the toroidal model introduces a toroidal circulation of dielectric and magnetic dynamics, characterized by two high pressure vortical zones and two low pressure field inversions. These are not arbitrary. They correspond precisely with the polar vortices and the tropical boundary thresholds, namely the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn, forming a closed loop energetic system that is grounded in pressure gradients and torsional geometry. So, in this model, the so called magnetic poles are not singular axial endpoints at the north and the south part of the round globe or whatever, but rather they are mirrored vertical nexus points embedded within the greater toroidal shell. The North Polar Center, located at the geographic Arctic, acts as a central dielectric vortex, the origin point from which energy radiates outward and downward through field curvature. So this radiative flow reaches the Tropic of Cancer, where it inverts and penetrates the Earth, descends through the Earth via subterranean channels, and reemerges in Antarctica, redefined as the southern North Pole. There, the current again expands out again toward the Tropic of Capricorn, where it once more enters the Earth and continues its journey back toward the original Arctic center. And this doesn't describe a bipolar dipole arc, but a reciprocating quadrupolar toroidal loop that is self-sustaining, centripetally and centrifugally balanced, and anchored by four distinct polar positions. You have the northern North Pole, which is the Arctic vortex, the center emergence point. You have the northern South Pole, the Tropic of Cancer, which is a field inversion boundary. You have the southern North Pole, which is in Antarctica, the Antarctic Circle. It's a reemergent vortex point. And then you have the southern South Pole, the Tropic of Capricorn, which is the final inversion boundary point. So each of these axial designations corresponds to field inversion zones, where dielectric implosion becomes magnetic explosion, and vice versa. It's happening simultaneously back and forth at all times. The toroidal system, therefore, is a field engine, a dielectric magnetic dynamo that is maintained through the dynamic interaction of two converging modalities: the inward moving centripetal converging dielectric field that is redshifted, right turning, and implosive, and the outward radiating centrifugal diverging magnetic field that is blue shifted, left turning, and explosive. These are just polar opposites. These conjugate flows form the very basis of toroidal geometry, where the hyperbolic dielectric axis compresses into the plane of inertia and the toroidal magnetic arms expand outward in coherent vortex loops. So in this model, the central dielectric axis represents counter space, a non-Cartesian, non-extended region of pure potential where the black sun energy is neither spatial nor temporal, but rather defined by radial acceleration towards rest. It is from this axial null point that the magnetic field is born, not as an independent substance, but as an effect of dielectric perturbation. Magnetism, in this view, is not a standalone force, but the spatial footprint of dielectric loss, an outward radiation that curves due to pressure gradients and field tension, forming the toroidal shell around the central hyperbolic core. The ether must be constituted as a plenum, which places it in a class of its own. So light is therefore an influence propagated as wave motion, and moreover, by transverse undulations, for the reason explaining that the ether is a medium which possesses a type of divine elasticity that is similar to a rigidity, and it must be very different from any ordinary matter that we know. So everything that we see, that we measure, and that we experience within the bounds of three-dimensional space arises from that which is fundamentally unseen. The invisible source is not abstract. It is the substrate of all appearance, the ground of being from which all manifested phenomena emerges from. It is neither spatial nor temporal in nature, once again, but rather the condition from which space and time are projected. In the language of field theory and dielectric ontology, this unseen realm is known as counter space, whereas conventional three-dimensional space is defined by linear motion and chronological succession, where we use clocks and time to navigate through life within the coordinates of measured time, as we all know. However, counter space is the inverse opposite, dimensionless, timeless, and at rest. It does not contain things, but rather it is the metaphysical prior to all of containment. Some may refer to it as the supernatural, the transcendental, or the metaphysical. But within the precise language of torsional electromagnetism, counter space is the locus of radial dielectric acceleration, the wellspring from which both space and magnetism emerges through and emerges from. So, in this view, manifested space is not a primary reality, but it's an after effect, a kind of luminous echo of a deeper unseen equilibrium that comes from counter space. So the toroidal field, which defines the structure of atoms, stars, and the Earth's alone, it's the Earth's own energetic system, is generated by this polarity between counter space and what we call three-dimensional space, the space that we're living in right now, between dielectric implosion and magnetic explosion. Now, the central axis of the torus and the inertial plane marks the site of maximum potential and minimum kinetic movement. It is from this axis that all divergence radiates outward and toward which all convergence returns to. So, therefore, what we call the visible world, matter, light, and magnetism in motion, is not self originating. It is an effect of unseen causal principles, structured by field gradients and sustained by the reciprocating tension between counter space and the extended space, the three-dimensional space. The tropics, the Tropic of Cancer and Tropic of Capricorn, and the polar vortices within Earth's toroidal magneto-dielectric system, the fourfold polar model, and even the perceived flow of time are all modalities of differentiations that are born from the disturbance of this primal rest, this counter space, this unseen space. This is the essence of a unified field epistemology, one that recognizes that all that is arises from what is not, and that the true structure of reality is not mechanical, but field conjugate, recursive, and anchored in the dielectric stillness of counter space. Furthermore, this model reveals that gravity, as traditionally defined, is fundamentally misunderstood. Gravity is not a separate field modality, but a non-discharging dielectric centripetal acceleration, an inward directed rarefaction, or a mutual mass acceleration towards counter space. As Ken Wheeler explains, gravity is not a force acting between masses, but it's the localized expression of dielectric convergence that is shaped by the same torsional dynamics that define magnetic discharge. So therefore, what we call gravity is a subvariant of dielectric behavior that is rooted in implosive coherence rather than external attraction. Okay, so what that means is that we can't just say that gravity doesn't exist, but the gravitational effect of counter space does exist in this toroidal model. The Earth's auroral phenomena, like the aurora borealis in the north and the aurora australis in the south, are natural manifestations of this framework. These luminous emissions occur precisely where the magnetic divergence meets atmospheric capacitance at the tropic polar boundaries, acting as visible signatures of field recombination zones where dielectric gradients cross their inertial thresholds. So crucially, the toroidal nature of this system is not unique to Earth. It is echoed in the very structure of the atom, which likewise operates as a magnetodielectric dynamo, centered by a hyperbolic inertial core and bounded by toroidal magnetic rotation. This same structure is seen in hearts, accretion disks, hurricanes, spiral galaxies, and even subatomic particles, all exhibiting a recursive symmetry of implosive intake and explosive release, modulated by counter space geometry, toroidal geometry. So, in totality, this toroidal geocentric model offers not merely a cosmographic correction, but a unified field epistemology, one in which magnetism, light, mass, and space are not isolated phenomena, but model expressions of a singular, coherent dielectric field. The atom, the earth, and the cosmos at large are not built from particles or inert mass, but from pressure gradients, field lines, and torsional geometries that are governed by the breathing equilibrium of implosion and explosion, convergence and divergence, blue shift and red shift, good and bad, hot and cold. It is a model in which space and time dissolve into field dynamics, and the universe is revealed not as a machine, but as a living, recursive vortex, self generating, self sustaining, and unified at every scale by the geometry of the torus and the axis of the hyperbola. The fundamental architecture of atomic and field structure is most accurately described through the conjugate geometries of the torus and the hyperbola. The looping donut-shaped toroidal form is the expression of magnetic divergence, representing the outward centrifugal rotation of energy through space. It manifests the expansive, left-turning, blue-shifted aspect of the field, forming the surrounding magnetic vortex. And in contrast to that, the hourglass-shaped tapering inward hyperboloid is the expression of the dielectric convergence, marking the centripetal inward implosion of energy into the axis of inertia. There is the right turning, red shifted path of returning potential, which is a suctional flow towards stillness. And these two forms are not separate, but they are interdependent. The hyperbolic axis forms the central spine of the toroidal field, housing the plane of inertia, the neutral non-spatial center through which all energy vectors both converge and diverge. And this center is not a point in space, but a condition of counter space, where the dielectric field reaches its apex and the magnetic field is nullified. And together, the torus and the hyperbola describe a self-regenerating atomic engine, a living engine, wherein energy moves continuously between implosive inward acceleration and explosive outward radiation. From this central axis, the energy bifurcates and extends vertically, often visualized as a luminous branch or field line that is radiating outward and then returns inward in a mirrored symmetry. This establishes a dual polarity, not in opposition, but in conjugate harmony, feeding the structure as a whole through recursive flow. It is within this framework that we must distinguish gravity from gravitation, like I said. So it's not that gravity doesn't exist, it's that dielectric gravitation is an onset or a subset of the nature of counter space. Conventional physics describes gravity as the acceleration of mass towards mass, but yet within the toroidal dielectric model, this is redefined. Gravitation is the converging behavior of the dielectric field, an inherent tendency of energy to collapse toward the plane of inertia. So, as explained by Ken Wheeler, what we call gravity is not a force of attraction, but a mutual acceleration towards that counter space, a non-discharging dielectric torsion spiraling inward with centripetal pressure. It is not an independent field or force, but it's an expression. It's a subset of the dielectric principle that is arising from the same ethereal tension that governs capacitance, charge, distribution, and the internal cohesion of field structures. Therefore, gravity is not an external force acting upon mass, but it's the manifestation of dielectric implosion within a toroidal field geometry. It represents a kind of rarefied tension in the ether, converging all mass toward the same point of energetic equilibrium, the plane of inertia at the heart of every magnetodielectric system. So, to reiterate, dielectric gravitation refers to a centripetal non-radiative modality of the dielectric field, characterized by the mutual acceleration of mass towards counter space, that center portion of the toroidal field. So, in this framework, gravity is not an independent field or force, once again, but rather gravitation is a subvariant, a secondary effect of dielectric collapse, conversion, or implosion. The dielectric itself is a releasing discharge directed towards counter space. Spatial energy discharges, such as lightning or electrostatics, are outward expressions of this implosive behavior. A discharge of capacitance results in increased inertia, while the loss of inertia gives rise to magnetism, its centrifugal counterpart. So, what is commonly referred to as gravity is more accurately understood as a form of dielectric convergence, a non discharging centripetal torsion or toroidal rarefaction, experienced as downward acceleration. Unlike the Newtonian or the Einsteinian interpretations, which says gravity as either an attractive force or curvature of space time, dielectric gravitation positions it as a coherent field effect of the ether, a symptom of torsional pressure mediation within the dielectric continuum. So it is seen implosive tendency of mass energy to return to a state of pure potential, governed by the external motion, but by the self restorative equilibrium of the dielectric medium itself. So within every toroidal model of the atom, there exists a plane of inertia, a neutral counterspatial disk separating the two polar extremity points, what is typically labeled as north and south in magnetism, and they are merely opposite polarities of this toroidal equilibrium. The internal dynamics of the atom are governed by magnetodielectricity, a unified field that is comprising of magnetism, which is radiative repulsive centrifugal divergence, and dielectricity, which is contractive attractive centripetal convergence. So these two forces, these two important essential forces, operate in tandem together. Magnetism expresses outward left turning blue shifted centrifugal divergence from the center. Notice its classification as radiation. It radiates out and diverges centrifugally outward, while dielectricity, as an inward moving, red-shifted, right-turning centripetal convergence, constitutes the essence of gravitation. The energy is gravitating back inward. However, once again, there is no gravity. Electricity, then, is not a separate force, but a resulted hybrid product of these two principles, carried within and mediated by the magnetic field. All magnets possess an electromagnetic field because the dielectric and the magnetic components are not isolated, but rather they are interwoven in a coherent, self sustaining structure. And in such a system, magnetic energy radiates from the polarity extremity points, while dielectric.
Oh, guys, that is so important. That is the key to all of this, what he just explained. I know it's a lot, it's very dense, but it's the truth. And when he speaks of, just now when they talk about, I'm going to replay it, look, about them forces being interwoven and electricity being a result, right? It's not inherently in everything, but magnetism is. All right, let's go back here. All right, listen up.
Sustaining structure. And in such a system, magnetic energy radiates from the polarity extremity points, while dielectric gravitation pulls inward toward both polar points and the inertial plane, creating the dynamic field interactions.
So the pushing and pulling action, what us fundamentalists would call breathing in and out. Okay, it's just built into it. It's in the background. It's the metaphysical, but it's there. We see the results of it, and we can measure a lot of, visually. We can measure visually. Not just like visible measurements or numbers, but yeah. Here we go.
that are observed in attraction and repulsion.
Hmm. So I missed the main point. Let me go back just a little further. Right about.
And dielectricity, which is contractive, attractive, centripetal convergence. So these two forces, these two important essential forces, operate in tandem together. Magnetism expresses outward left turning polarities
One
of
more
this
time.
toroidal equilibrium. The internal dynamics of the atom are governed by magnetodielectricity.
So basically, it's almost like an oxymoron, like a paradox. That's he's talking about the toroidal equilibrium. Okay, this involves the dielectric field, the magnetic push and pull effects, um and the creating of a denseness, which we call the block domain wall. That is the denseness for us to even participate in this system with this much solidity. We are, in a sense, on the equilibrium equator, let's say, or a point of stability. It's not completely at rest, but we're on that piece. So the equilibrium part, but then there's forces that are always fighting in and out, centrifugally, centripetally, up and down, back and forth, in and out, four dimensionally. The oscillations, right? The what's built in. So all that has to come together to even have us a place to live. Which, if you see, my mouse is right here. All right, let's keep on playing. We're almost done there. I just wanted to
A
reiterate
unified
these points. Okay.
field that is comprising of magnetism, which is radiative, repulsive, centrifugal divergence, and dielectricity, which is contractive, attractive, centripetal convergence. So these two forces, these two important essential forces, operate in tandem together. Magnetism expresses outward left turning, blue shifted centrifugal divergence from the center. Notice its classification as radiation. It radiates out and diverges centrifugally outward, while dielectricity, as an inward moving, red shifted, right turning centripetal convergence, constitutes the essence of gravitation. The energy is gravitating back inward. However, once again, there is no gravity. Electricity, then, is not a separate force, but a resulted hybrid product of these two principles, carried within and mediated by the magnetic field. All magnets possess an electromagnetic field because the dielectric and the magnetic components are not isolated, but rather they are interwoven in a coherent, self sustaining structure. And in such a system, magnetic energy radiates from the polarity extremity points, while dielectric gravitation pulls inward toward both polar points and the inertial plane, creating the dynamic field interactions that are observed in attraction and repulsion.
Construction begins on the Square Kilometer Array, Artemis 1's iconic crescent Earthrise picture, a gamma ray burst that breaks all the rules. All this and more in this week's episode of Space Bites. There are a lot of big telescope ideas that I'm excited about. You've probably heard me go on about the Vera Rubin Observatory, the Nancy Grace Roman Observatory, the extremely large
Okay. All right. Sorry about that. I got a little lost here. Had to take me a second to get back. I was eating my food and my computer slipped, and I had to get my niece come and grab it for me. So thankfully she was here for that. All right. So the finale, the decision, guys. It's such a tough decision. Oh my gosh, is it round? Is it flat? Is it hollow? I don't know. Oh my gosh, such I'm being tugged and pulled in every direction. Well, what if you just excuse me, I'm smacking. What if you just merged the correct components of an overall system rather than trying to narrow it down, right, to just pure um, science and like, density and materialism, and that's the only way we see it? No, no, no. What if you combine the whole picture, piece by piece, like we just did, and make sense of it that way? Let me get this off the screen because this guy looks crazy. So, I think I ran some people out of the room here. There's not many people here now. That was a very complex, but we know these things. If you're a flat earther and you've been a flat earther, we know these things. It's just good to reiterate what matters, what's more conclusive through science, since these elite, I guess if you want to call them, what satisfies these chumps, right? Oh, their way of life, their way of doing things, their certificates, their peer reviewed papers. That's how they're okay with it, right? Like we're speaking their language. You know what I mean? But as soon as you start getting into etheric and metaphysical, right? Centrifugal pushing, and pulling and rolling, right? Kind of forces that keep something that is stable, has to have a stable, base, and then all it's heavy enough, it's big enough, dense enough to where it cannot be moved by magnetic, ley lines in the sky and in the ground, telluric currents. Like they're just waving forces that are being molded and shaped. If you don't like this answer, too bad, but the solar winds shape these. And I mean, there's lines that are stable, but then the nodes, right, where these things cross in the sun crosses, and it's uh, possibly, I'm saying theoretically, closer to the firmament at certain times, and it's interacting. And I mean, if there's a source sun on the outside of the firmament, and the dielectric field, however you want to call it, if it's getting closer, maybe that produces the sun seasonally looking as if it goes up, right? Something gets closer to a piece of dome glass, the light source is going to go up. Therefore, it's traveling into Cancer, right? And then maybe as the source sun goes away from or backs off, right, then that light will drop to the equator and then Capricorn eventually. Um, so I'm going to show you an example of what I'm talking about. That way you guys can get a visual. Okay. Let me go here. Just give me 1 second. Let's see, add to stage. Let me go over to, I think this is, let me see if it's right here. Excuse me for 1 second. Oh, no, no, no. There it is. Okay. Now, just looking at this, can you guys see this? If you can, give me a little confirmation or a thumbs up. That way I don't look crazy later, because plenty of my lives, you know what I mean? The live shows end up not doing what I'm saying. Okay, this said, okay, so, oh yeah, let me share. Okay, so stop sharing. Here we go, and I'm gonna play it, and you'll get the point where I mean, angles play the big part, if not the biggest part, on how we see the sun. Oh, I guess it's over here on the other one. Excuse me. All right, you guys ready? Well, that one is not something I want to see. Let me close that. I have to pick up another screen. Or do I? Just one? No. Sorry, guys. I just had it. And it may be something I have to reopen. So, no. So just bear with me here. So let me go to my history. I'm sorry. It seems like I just closed something up. Damn it. Stop talking, please. Here we go. History. History. Open your history, RG. Let the people see what you've been looking at, RG. Let's make sure you're not going crazy and looking at the global shit. Let's make sure you have not been brainwashed by these vampires who suck the blood of everyone and get their loose energy. All right, let's see. Let's see what RG's been looking at. His story. All right, I'm gonna put this on the big screen, and you guys tell me if I'm okay. All right, make sure you got no crazy kind of desires. Perfect battery material is dangerous, it says. We went to space and discovered an enormous lie. Ron Garden, he is a astronaut, so they say. Sorry, I'm really trying to get back to where I was at, and I don't know. Oh, this is funny. I'll play this when we close out. This is shout out to Jay Dreamers. Oh man, he dropped some funny shit about the Artemis program. There's some satellite looking things. Oh, come on. Oh, yeah, that's what I posted as well. Music you can see. Oscilloscope music. It's actually really cool. 4D. Sorry, I'm trying to hurry and get this. And if I can't get it right now, I will not waste any more time with it. But obviously, what I'm describing is if there's an outside source in a firmament, then it would seasonally travel up and down. Here we go. So this is about rainbows, but when you look into it and you apply our perspective, you're going to see that there's a little information in here that we this could give us some really good hints. Let me find my spot here. So, okay. So they call it raindrops, quote unquote. Okay. So let's think about this. Okay. They call it raindrops. I call it gases, the atmosphere. Sometimes the gases are, they interact in the clouds. I guess how not a weather guy, but sometimes these gases and atmosphere and particles, molecules, whatever you want to call them, they collect. They're made of the hydrogen and oxygen. Okay, and they pick up extra ones and they bunch together and they get heavier and fall. Okay, but the atmosphere is already there. We don't need drops to make a rainbow. We don't. Absolutely don't. I don't know who's out there saying yes, we do right now, but I've seen rainbows plenty of times when it wasn't raining afterwards, right? So if there's no raindrops falling, but you still see it, uh, what conclusion can you come to, right? And it depends on angle. Anyway, here's the observer down here. the eyeball, right? There's the cornea, the outside. And then there's the lens, right, under that. Okay. And then back here are the rods and cones and retina. Well, retina goes around, wraps around the back there and the inside. And what do they call the socket, the eye socket? Does anyone know what they call this part? Uh, they call it the orbit around the eye, the inside of the eye. And this is a true to scale kind of thing, like, or not to scale, but it's true that it goes in a conical fashion, meaning that it's whatever's taken in from here is processed and it's funneled down to one little spot. So around the cornea, it's about 1.36 millimeters thick, and inside of it is like a jelly-like material. Okay, and I know I'm getting a little off topic, but this feeds into it, to the topic, that how light enters the eye. How does electricity flow through a conductive wire? Anybody? The right hand rule always flows counterclockwise, and it doesn't just enter right here. It enters and it does an orbit all the way down, called the orbital, and it keeps spinning, spinning, spinning. And then when it hits this point right here, it inverts, it flips. Okay? It goes to the back of your brain. Okay, it goes to the back of the brain. And whatever is out here, this full spectrum frequency waves that are just all going crazy and mixed up. And you can't see shit. You can't until anyway, if you look out here, you don't make out or if you aren't looking out here, there's no picture unless, say, you're being described what's out there, a rainbow, but you're not looking at it, but someone else is right next to you. They're describing it. Hey, there's a rainbow and it's red up top, and I've got a stand and I'm measuring the angles, right? And it seems to always end up being from the top of the rainbow to the eye for some reason, always, always, always between 42, it's never under 42 degrees at the angle that it enters your eye. So that means on the top of it, wherever it is, to your eye right here, the red always enters at the top and then spins down, right, till it gets to here. The blue and purple, okay, here it is. The blue and purple is always going to be down here, enter down here. Now, either it's that, what, red on top, blue and purple on bottom, and then it's inverted to where the blue's on top, or it's vice versa. Like, no one really knows because everyone's eyes, optical nerve, splits and is inverted upside down as well. So the rainbow is really doing this out here in the world. It's going upside down. Some people say, no, it's the other way around. Some people say, no, it's different, that in the back of the brain where it's processed, it's flipped inside your head. Okay, cool. If it's flipped inside your head, then how does it, when it shoots this way, how does it get projected back out to this? Because 100% your eye projects what you're taking in, the information you're taking in. Okay, I'm gonna stop yapping, and we're just gonna. It's a very short explanation, but it's gonna get to a firmament, like a crystalline sphere, like the celestial sphere. Okay, and it's going to show you how when white light passes through that, how you, like I say, once again, when it goes through your eye, how that white light, when it goes to the firmament, is processed, and then you see what's been processed through the crystalline. So the information, the vibration that enter your eye, are then, you have to see it first, and then you project out into the world your interpretation of it. Because if you're colorblind, you don't see color. You see what I'm saying? So you absolutely your body. So your body always is going to have an individual uniqueness to it. Nobody is exactly the same, but it seems that our senses, if they're all in tune, work very, very similar to each other. But 100% they work in ways that we do not control and that works in ways that we are not allowed to access. Some people are, but the rest of the wavelengths and frequencies and dimensional, aspects and depth, the real 4D, 5D depth, um, to this part of our realm and stuff. But who knows what happens? Anyway, let's when we get closer to the edge. But anyway, let's check this out. All right, here we go. And remember, the firmament crystalline structure sphere that's coming up is going to help you understand some of this that we're studying. I mean, the higher the firmament is, okay? Because remember, the source sun, I either shines. There's so many documents that say it shines as the brightness of the firmament. Maybe the firmament itself is the mirror, reflectance, right? And maybe it's uh, explain crystalline, like I'm saying, because if there was a source sign outside of it, that if it shone through and it's fractal, once that toroid starts to split off fractally, that's where all your individual experiences come from, because that sunlight breaks up into trillions of oscillating informations. All right, I'm not going to get too deep. Anyway, let's continue on. I think it's the firmament. Uh, you're getting these shapes of the rainbows that lower and lower, higher and higher, depending on how close to the middle you are, which would be the apex, the highest point, vice versa, the outside. Firmament, he means, because check it out. This example, just like it needs to be in reality, is stable. It's not vibrating back and forth and moving and jumping up and down. So keep that in mind. Meaning, as the light goes through your eye, right, and into the optic nerve, whichever way your eye is looking up or down, and whichever way you move it, left or right, and all that, that's the angle that the light is coming out of the eye once it's been processed. Okay, so they are very slick with the way they try to um, take the real thing, like I did my live on last night. They take examples and tests and dissecting everything in the real world, and then they run it through biobanking or whatever, right? This ain't about that, but it's an example of that. So don't let them get you. Mhm. They mean above the firmament, wherever your ground position is not reflecting the light the same way that it is at the surface of the firmament and the thickness of the whatever the thickness of the firmament is, right? I think it's similar to fractally similar to your lens and how thick it is, and that gel-like material. It's a topological conductor. It's solid, but at the same time it's malleable. It's got the same crystalline makeup. I think the firmament has to be allowed to have that kind of flexibility. You know what I mean? Breathing in and out and stuff like that. But yeah. I think above, in their example, above this, it's black. This is the firmament. Very small example of it. And that's why. But when white light is going through the firmament, just like your eye, right? It'll go through the eye and then back out. And this is your projection, right? This is your projection from your eye. This is under the firmament. All right, let's go. Firmament, bottom of the firmament. That's what it is. It just has to be the right angle and right, uh, yep, position, ground position. That's your horizon, guys. Okay, that's just like I showed you just a minute ago, right? As above, so below. Mhm. And the toroidal movement that's through the firmament, right? I think that's the metaphysical part because we can't see it, but we see the effects of it in the star rotation. And then as things happen to get lower, it seems to be a whole lot fractalizing, but the same exact results. And I'm going to show you in just a minute real pictures of like toroidal lightning storms that were captured from uh, mm, uh, they were captured from very important place, a very strategic place that you don't get to see. And I'm gonna drop them, man. Fuck it. And I want you guys to run it through software or whatever your heart desires. But it's pretty, it's beautiful. It's destructive looking, but it's beautiful. Here we go. Hey, sorry about that. Mm-hmm. Pay attention, guys, to this because remember we were talking about the angles of how the rainbows appear the closer you are to the center, like north. They're big, huge arcs, right? And then the closer you go away from the north, they get smaller and lower. Okay. These are called glory rainbows. Pay attention. They only happen at very high altitudes. Um, there's nothing like this on the ground. So what does that tell you? Excuse me, I'm chewing, I'm eating. But um, yeah, what does this tell you? Only high elevations, never seen on the ground, and they complete. You can actually see the complete circle. Now on the ground, you only see half. What does this tell you? Use your logic. Okay, this right here can only be done at the apex of the center of the dome. This is the highest, okay? Highest central point. What is the highest central point on an arch, on a curve or a curved arch? It's like I was telling you earlier, when we see like Jupiter or Mars and Venus, all the ones that move, okay, and that don't just do circles, that create other geometries, right? That is only a circle shape because it's against an arched dome, which creates a circular shape. Just like this. This is a telltale sign. Okay. All right. I'm going to mute up while I finish playing this. I've got to get my niece to help me plug up my computer here so I don't die out. But we're probably going to be about, I don't know, maybe 45 minutes to another hour of content, and then I'm going to wrap it up. So let me mute up and I'll let you guys finish watching this. There is 6 more minutes. All right. Yeah. Okay, guys, damn it. See, I make these fucking rookie mistakes. I'm so sorry. Damn. Real Cygnus, I should have jumped back over in comments earlier. Yes, you're supposed to be seeing something. I'm sorry. Let me share that. Could you hear it? By the way, could you hear anything? If you're there, just let me know. If you can hear, and then I'm going to drop this on the screen right now. I don't know why. I must have hit something on the way out. Shit. It says what they don't teach you. Here we go. It says no, and now you're echoing. All right. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to do this, share. All right. I'm going to put the sound on, see. Jeez, I messed up, guys. Hopefully y'all could hear me talking the whole time. Okay. If you could hear me talking, just let me know. Get back over here. Okay. So this is, I'm starting out basically saying you don't have to have, you don't have to have, you don't have to have raindrops to experience all of this, rainbows and stuff, right? Damn, I just talked so much and made very good, valid points, and I wanted to have visuals playing as I was speaking. I says, heard just you. Yes, still echo on you. Huh. All right, let me turn off the sound. Hold on one second. I'm gonna turn off the sound to oh no, sorry, the echo was me. Okay, awesome. Oh no, you're good about that. Thank you, Al, for letting me know. I'm gonna take down the banner, and that way you guys can see everything much, much, much better and clearer. Okay, I'm gonna mute up. I'm gonna let this play. There's some really good points. Just apply our knowledge of the firmament for one, right? Let me do this. Apply our every time you see or hear water droplets, it's going to show you a spherical crystalline ball, like a basketball sized crystal ball, like woo, they do hey, magic, and read your future. No, that's not real. So this crystalline structure is going to show how light comes through it, right, through our eye in the firmament shape, and the crystalline structure of our eye, the liquid crystal, right, past the lens. The lens is like a gook, like a jello kind of material, and a density. It's malleable. It's a solid. I think the firmament does that as well, so it can be able to breathe. It's a living system, so makes sense. Now, this is the way light, they use lasers, like red, green, blue lasers to emulate how these angles, the angle of incidence and how light enters a curved surface they try to prove their part just using water, right? Water droplets, there's trillions of water droplets and that it's entering and bouncing. What does water droplets do? They fall, they move, they're constantly in motion, right? If you got something stable that white light is shining through, then of course you would get the depending on where the observer is on the ground, right? You would get the rainbow. You don't need falling water, moving water, and plus they don't keep their shape like a circular shape as they fall. Have you guys ever seen water as it falls? Like it stretches out, it elongates, right? Anyway, here we go. I'm gonna play this, and I've got to mute up for a minute because your boy's in pain now.
Is the ultimate optical illusion. From billions of droplets, each projecting a rainbow cone, you see a single static arch of color. But the droplets sending you those colors are constantly changing. A single drop as it falls might send to your eye first red, then orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. And because a rainbow must form an angle of 40 to 42 degrees with your eye, the center of the arch must be on a line that passes from the sun through the back of your head. So your shadow is the center of your rainbow.
This means no two people can ever see the exact same rainbow. In fact, your left and right eyes don't even see the same rainbow. A rainbow is an optical illusion made unique for each perspective.
This also explains why in most parts of the world you can only see a rainbow in the early morning or late afternoon, not in the middle of the day. The higher the sun is, the lower the top of the rainbow is, and when the sun is more than 42 degrees above the horizon, no rainbow is visible from the ground. But even when rainbows are visible, you can turn them invisible using sunglasses. That is, as long as they are polarized. Light from the sun is unpolarized, which means the electric fields of the light are all randomly oriented, oscillating back and forth equally in all directions. But it just so happens that when the light in the rainbow ray reflects off the back of the droplet, it does so very close to a special angle known as Brewster's angle. At this angle, all light with its electric field oriented parallel to the plane of reflection is transmitted. So it passes out the back of the droplet. And therefore, the only light that is reflected has its electric field perpendicular to the plane of reflection. This is the light that creates the rainbow. This means rainbow light is polarized along the direction of the rainbow, so horizontal at the top and closer to vertical on the sides. This is why you can use a polarizing filter to make a rainbow disappear, or to make it brighter if you orient the filter to allow that polarized light to pass through. But why is it brighter?
So, what they mean to say is that the light that comes through up here, above the rainbows up here, and it comes down into your eye at a certain angle, they say it passes out the back of the raindrop, right? And then there's extra light, like somehow angled back out. And that's what the rainbow is that you see, because there's light that goes out the back of it or whatever, hits the back and then comes back into your eye. So twice you're seeing what's being projected, I guess, like or what light is going through the raindrops. So it's just so much easier for me to understand that the light goes through your eye, right? At a spiral, it's spiraling. It goes into your eye. It goes through the optic nerve in the back, what they would call the back of the raindrop. Well, we know light travels through that optic nerve. It's processed, right? And then it comes right back out. And that's, instead of the raindrop light coming back out, it's just light coming out of your crystalline, liquid crystalline, malleable eyeball, it's a little squishy thing, but it doesn't move around like a raindrop does unless you move it. And when you move it, the whole scene and direction of light being projected out of your eye is different, right? Anyway, let's continue.
Under a rainbow than above it. Well, this is because the raindrops beneath the rainbow are reflecting all colors of light at you off their back surfaces. This is what created the white disk in my glass sphere experiment. In contrast, the raindrops above the top of the rainbow are not reflecting any light to you off their back surfaces. Your eye is now outside the maximum deflection angle of...
Okay. If you can see my mouse, I say the first crystalline structure that it, dang it, how about get this out of the way? So I'm trying to get this. Let me just do it like this.
all of the colors.
Oh, okay. So I say, if you can see my mouse, this is the firmament up top. And the reason why there's no rainbow over here above it, like it just said, okay, above the firmament, we can't see with our eyes through the firmament, right?
But if you look up even
Damn it. And we can't, let me go back. We can't go see above it. That's why it's black, right? And we already know it's the dielectric field. It's already black. It's void of our light that we can see, right? Through our spectrum. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot more to light and the red microwave and gamma rays and so on and so forth, right? But when the light is coming through here at this certain angle, okay, and it's coming back out, okay, once it comes down far enough and enters our eye, it is then
Action
reprocessed,
angle of
and this is what the result is, okay? It's only there when we're looking at it. Just like the same question to the tree. But do you hear anything if you don't see it fall in the forest or something like that? Does it make a sound?
all of the colors.
But if you look up even further, sometimes you see a second, fainter rainbow with its colors inverted.
Double rainbow!
So where does this come from? Well, it comes from an additional reflection inside the raindrops. Now, instead of reflecting once off the inside of the sphere, light reflects twice. These reflections also create colored caustics, though much fainter because light is lost with each reflection. If you look at deflection angles, this light starts going out the back of the raindrop, so at an angle of 180 degrees, but the
Okay. This is your horizon. This would be like looking out at, let's say, an ocean, right, from the shore. This is your reference line, okay? They say it's a raindrop, right? That starts, this is how light is entering it. They're just using it as an example, right? Light from behind your head is entering a raindrop perfectly level, right down the middle, okay? Let's just think of it. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt for a second, which we don't really have to, but okay. Now, as this is their example, as the sun moves up, okay, as it moves up, it will bounce and come back low, and you'll be seeing it at a certain angle due to the position of the sun and the position of the raindrop, right? At that very moment, they're that good. They just say it's so crowded with raindrops at that time that it forms a perfect picture, and it looks, pixelated, right? Because there's only rain pixels. Well, I say it's already pixelated before the rain drops, right? And that's our ether. It's just the sun and the moisture in is as it falls. I guess you would say it's causing like a metaphysical piezoelectric effect, and it's creating this feedback in different ways and different colors and stuff and different. But I say this is giving a representation of the horizon, firmament, eye. The eye is going to be incorporated into this equation, being down here, right? As above, so below, firmament, eye. All right, keep that in mind. Let's go. I'm just going to leave me unmuted. That way I can talk if I need to. All right, here we go. Keep that in mind.
further out light hits from the center, the smaller the angle light reflects back at, until it reaches a minimum of around 50 degrees for red light. Then it turns around and goes back the other way. So between 42 and 50 degrees.
So what they're doing is they're measuring the angle light comes in. This is this one, the white that turns red. The angle it comes in, right, is going to bounce off the walls of the raindrop, which is constantly changing. There, right? And then here, and then all of a sudden it comes back out here, and where it crosses, that's the angle it gives you here. How the fuck do they know if one drop is going to, with that many ricochets, is going to come back here? It would be so much easier if they had stable crystalline structure above it, right?
It is dark because no light reflected once or twice inside a raindrop comes out at this angle. This is known as Alexander's dark band.
Now, there is photographic evidence of third and fourth order rainbows formed after 3 or 4 internal reflections. But this light comes out the back of a raindrop, so they are the only kinds of rainbows that you could expect to see when looking in the direction of the sun. But they're so faint that conditions would have to be perfect. Under lab conditions, up to 200th order rainbows have been detected.
But that is not what is going on here. This is known as a supernumerary rainbow. Multiple
Thank you for the question. So we know that we need 2 surfaces, right? There needs to be an intermediary for this light to be seen in this fashion, right? And to stay formed, right? It needs to have enough time to form, so on and so forth. Now you ask where the firmament come in. So the way he's describing it, they're using perfectly spherical ball, right? And then they are giving examples of a starting point being 180 degrees that was straight across. It split that sphere in half perfectly, right? Now that gives you two sides. Okay, let me come over to comments just in case I need to address any questions you got. But so if you can see my mouse here, so where the angle at which this is forming this rainbow, right? So we know that there's 2 key positions that also need to be in place. The top of the rainbow and your ground position is going to determine how this takes shape, okay? And remember that the optics we're looking through are perfect. You know what I mean? Through since Lewin's MIT demos. Okay, cool. Yeah, real sick. So back to the point where and how is this determined, and how is it so consistent where your ground position is, let's say at the equator, and we're looking due west, okay? We're looking straight in the way that the sun comes from the east and sets in the west. The sun is behind you, okay? And it's whatever time, it don't matter. And you're looking west, okay? And if you have a person standing, let's say it's the same exact time, same moment that he records and you record this rainbow. If that guy is, let's say, 50 or 60 degrees south, okay, versus the equator, versus 60 degree north, the reason why you're going to see a stark difference in height is because I believe the ceiling is higher at 60 degrees north than it would be at the equator, and even lower. And in my opinion, that firmament, that ceiling, is going to mimic exactly what the smaller organisms, the fractal organisms, the shape, which is most of the time things grow in a spiral, right? The 5 ratio number spiral, and even the number of things that grow into it. like layers, right? Like petals or whatever flowers. Well, I think this setup, the reason why the rainbows are seen how they're seen is because the dome also follows the phi ratio from the center at the highest point, working its way down. I think at it gets lower and lower toward the edges of the circle at a 1 to 1.618 ratio. That would be my guess. That would be why the rainbows um, depend on that kind of shape um, for the observer to see it like they do, right? Uh, yeah, but rainbows only happen outside. That's right, because it's that would be the ideal spot to have a perfect rainbow, right? But ground position is key, and you have to be, according to their example, you would always have to be looking straight ahead, level at the horizon. And then as the raindrops fall and they pass your center line of vision, right, then you would get the results that they're talking about due to raindrops, right? But if you start moving your eye around, man, that rainbow would go all wonky, right? If it was due to raindrops. And it kind of does in a way because the center point of your eye, the lens, it bubbles outward. It's almost like a little half of a football almost. Well, no, don't. It's not that pointed. It's like a pear almost. You know what I mean? Let's use your crazy scientist words. You know what I mean? So the eye is circular until it gets to the front, and that lens bubbles out just a little bit. So it helps to shape what we see as well. So between the firmament and the center line of our eye and how it bubbles out is key, right? Um, Not to mention our eye inverts the image that we see and that we project. So we're just taking in scrambled information, all these full spectrum wavelengths, right? We're taking all that in, and then our eye decides, oh shit, we need to do this because the light is coming at a certain angle, right? The light's coming through a certain shape. We better make sense of this, right? Right? All right, cool. That was I just seen that question, but let's finish this up. A couple more minutes. Here we go.
Rainbow-like bands show up under a primary rainbow. But this only occurs when the raindrops are all really small, just tenths of a millimeter in diameter. Now the light rays that pass just above and below the primary rainbow ray end up coming out at similar angles under 40 degrees, but they travel slightly different distances on the order of a wavelength. And because of this, those light rays can interfere constructively and destructively, producing a series of light and dark bands inside the main rainbow.
Okay, there we go. Finally, some truth. This is where I think the movement of the raindrop as they fall will interfere and give us some kind of information in these wavelengths because only certain colors, vibrate at certain wavelengths, right? And those wavelengths are going to interfere with green or blue because those wavelengths are faster and tighter, right? So I think these very, very small, like they say, like almost fog-like uh, particles, it isn't that they take in light and rearrange it for you to comprehend. I think it's more or less, you know, the wavelength saying, hey, 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 I'm right here. And then your eye being like, okay, let me, use what's available and what it's trying to tell me. But I don't think it's because of light passing through and bouncing off of different um, angles. I just think there's so many of these uh, moistures, things that and I don't think it's the big chunky ones that are falling. I think it's those that are almost cloud-like that are stable enough to give you that kind of information. But that way, your eye can and your brainstem and optic nerve can simulate that, right, in a correct way, because it's that constructive and destructive waves that even begin to give you the correct information, right? And that, like I say, is demonstrated. It's not always have to be that way. It doesn't have to be present. In other words, you can just use the atmosphere and the angle of light incidence, all that. But here we go. Let's try this again.
Different colors in these supernumerary rainbows overlap more than in the main rainbow, so they can produce strange colors like magenta, a combination of blue and red.
Supernumeraries also offer a clue to how these small rainbows work. Whenever I saw images like this, or even observed this sort of thing from an airplane, I wondered how a rainbow could be so small.
These are known as glories or Brockenbows. Instead of the usual 42 degrees, these circles of color are only around 2 to 4 degrees wide. Well, the key is that just like in supernumeraries, glories are due to interference, so they too require tiny water droplets, just tenths of a millimeter in diameter. These are the sorts of droplets you'd find in fog or clouds.
Light that strikes the edge of the drop can go around the back and come straight back at the source. You can see that with the laser on the glass sphere. But effectively, in the presence of parallel light rays, tiny little droplets become a ring source of light. But for these tiny droplets, the distance from one point to all edges of the sphere can vary on the order of a wavelength. So take, for example, the point right out in front of the drop. Well, now the distance to all edges is the same, so the light interferes constructively here and produces a bright spot. But a little bit off to one side, and now half of the light, on average, has traveled an extra half a wavelength, and so we get a dark spot here. If you go a little further, well, now the light has traveled an extra whole wavelength, so now the light is arriving in phase again, and we get a bright spot here. So we can rotate this around 360 degrees and extend it out in all directions, and what we get is a fuzzy bullseye pattern. And of course, all the different colors of light have different wavelengths, and so these bullseye patterns aren't completely overlapping. So when they're superimposed, what we see is rings of color.
Now, this is just the pattern from a single droplet, but just like with a rainbow, if you have millions or billions of these droplets, they all contribute to produce this same pattern with your shadow at the center. And it was just such a pattern that inspired a Nobel Prize-winning discovery. In September of 1894, a scientist named C.T.R. Wilson was visiting an observatory in the Scottish Hills. It was then that he observed the colored rings surrounding the shadow cast on mist or cloud. He recalls that these glories greatly excited my interest and made me wish to imitate them in the laboratory. So Wilson invented the cloud chamber for the explicit purpose of observing glories. Of course, once he discovered the cloud chamber made the tracks of energetic particles visible, he abandoned his original aim and was later awarded the Nobel Prize. But it all started with the mystery of rings of color in the fog.
Oh, wow, looks so nice.
How did you see that? So now I hope you know, my son, why rainbows are curved, and why they're polarized, and why they exist at all. And even more than that, I hope you know why I find such enjoyment in learning about our world, why it is worth figuring things out. For millennia, rainbows have been this blatant challenge held up to us by nature. But can you figure this out? And it's satisfying to say, we have.
I'm looking at a different rainbow than you.
It's true. When I started researching this video, I thought I already knew about rainbows. I mean, I'd learned all of the colors of the rainbow in school and that it was caused by light refracting and reflecting, but I realize now that I'd only really just memorized things about rainbows and not really understood how they work. Learning should be about mastering a subject, not memorizing a list of facts. And that's why we asked Brilliant to sponsor this video. You know, Brilliant helps you become smarter every day with quick interactive lessons on everything from math and science to data analysis, programming, AI, you name it. And what makes Brilliant so effective is that you learn by doing and getting hands-on, solving problems so that you build intuition and real understanding. And since all of their lessons are bite-sized, you can be learning and building skills whenever you have a few minutes to spare. Take their freshly updated course on scientific thinking. If you liked learning about the physics of rainbows, you'll love diving into these lessons that get hands-on with everything from gears and structures to balancing forces and beyond. You'll not only get a better grasp on how the physical world works, you'll also learn to think like a scientist so you can apply your skills to any problem. Now, I truly believe that learning a little bit every day is one of the best gifts you can give yourself. And with Brilliant, that is super easy. All you need are a few minutes each day, and before you know it, you've got a habit of ending each day a bit smarter. So to try everything Brilliant has to offer for free for a full 30 days, visit brilliant.org/Veritasium. Click that link in the description or scan this QR code. And when you sign up, you'll also get 20% off your annual premium subscription. So I want to thank Brilliant for sponsoring this video, and I want to thank you for watching.
This is a video about avalanches, what they are.
Okay, and that is that, ladies and gentlemen. We have come to an impasse to make a decision. Where do we live? On one hand, it is definitely showing multiple signs of a ceiling, right? For one. For two, it's definitely not showing results for movement. Three, there seems to be currents that run through the earth, right? They come up from different angles from the inside of the earth. Solar currents and neutrino detection are just a couple of several things that show that. The centripetal and centrifugal breathing in and out, right? The give and take, the uneven relationship that equals equilibrium, right? Um, oh yes, the pictures, the toroidal pictures. Are you guys ready, man, for life-changing shit? Let me take this off, right quick. Man, are y'all ready? Can I get thumbs up if y'all are ready to see a real toroidal storm from the metaphysical aspect, right? From different spectrums that we don't see, that technology can. Are y'all ready for that? Anybody? Nobody? Because I'm amping you up for a reason because it's pretty life-changing. When I seen it, I'm like, my eyes were just like, oh my God, like if I got the right contact that sent me the right pictures. Let me just tell you this. It's so like cool looking that people will just say it's bullshit. It's fake. You know why? Because no one has ever seen these kind of things. I mean, certain people have. I'm just fortunate to have, asked the right people and made the right contacts to kind of see these things firsthand. Not in person, but with my eyes. Uh, maybe not as cool to you guys, right? But okay, so no one is saying yes, so I guess I'm just not gonna post it. Sorry. I'll do it another time when everyone's, kind of ready for that. And Kim Ray, I'm not sure what you mean. I'm on stage. Um, can you kind of clarify what you mean by this? Can he demonstrate this? It's if you If you mean the guy that was just speaking, I think he's just a talking head, right? Can he demonstrate this? I didn't catch the timestamp on when you asked this. It says 7:04, but I don't know what part you're asking about. Could you clarify that for me, please? Okay, I'm going to take this down. I guess you may be gone at this point, Kim Ray, but I'm gonna go get. Yeah, I'm gonna put these pictures up just because I'm excited about them. Okay, here we go. Media assets. I want you guys to make sure this is on stage. If you can see my my weird looking mug there with the backwards hat, and you can see my name, please let me know. Please, please, please. That way I know you guys are getting this when I put them up here. I would appreciate it. Now, I probably could open it up in my regular gallery. Maybe I should, where I can make them bigger. Yeah, let me do it. Let me go to share. Let me just share my screen. Hold on one second. I'm gonna share entire screen, you guys. That way I can blow up the pictures and make them huge. Right. So let me stop sharing that one and let me do entire screen. Bear with me. This is the end of the show. We've been going on almost 3 hours, so I do think this is very much worth you guys' time, or I would not do it, obviously. Okay, let's go entire screen, and let's go share audio. Well, I don't have to share audio. I can use my own audio thing here. Let me go use that. Now, this is where the interesting shit happens. The end of the show, the people that stick around the longest get to see the coolest little storms. Well, I can't say little, and I can't say exactly where it's at because I've never been there. So I don't want to say, you know, it's here, and you guys one day get to go on some special trip, special access trip, and then look up in the sky and be like, "Where's it at?" You know, in the dielectric field, where there's electricity everywhere in different spectrums. I can tell y'all that. Okay, these are files. Let me go to downloads. I think it's in my gallery. On the pictures here. Let me make this big. Oh, no, no, no. There's my little smiley face with the firmament and the inner Earth there, the hollow Earth. Let me go down here. I don't think it's in this folder. But it's in photos. Let me just go to gallery. You like my creations? I do all these myself. Like these aren't downloaded pictures. Check that one out. That one is downloaded. It's about harmonics and all. But these are the floating Enochian gates that are up there somewhere. Right, let me go up one. Gallery. Oh man, y'all hold on. It's about to get rocky. Let me make these extra large so you guys can see everything in detail. And I hope a picture of my ass is on here because I have a pressure wound on my hip. People take me. There's my dad. Okay. Sorry, some of these pictures are highly personal. There's all my screenshot stuff. Why is it's doing it by date? Oh, okay. Let's see. I gotta go slow. Where are you now? Where are you? Why is this acting crazy? Right. Why are you acting crazy? Alright, man. This is getting aggravating. Look, there's the sun's path. Up and down, up and down, up and down. In and out, in and out. And I have visual proof of that kind of path taken from the south. There's the Toroidal donut that I was speaking of earlier. See how it goes around and out and around and out and around and out. That's the path of the sun and moon. Rest map, just like that in my living room. All right, let's get to the juicy stuff. I promised y'all metaphysical Taurus storms, and you're about to get it. You can show this to all your buddies and family members and say, I would like to see this one day. That's what you can do. This is at the equator. Check it out. Whoa, 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 where are you going? This equator. You see? This line goes straight up and down. This goes right over your head if you're looking straight up. And you see right here, this is the bottom of the Oith, or the bottom of the Oith system. Over here, if you're looking due west, which I would recommend, because if you're looking due west, look to the right, that's the north, left to the south. Okay, just that easy. You don't have to go anywhere. You can see them rotating in opposite directions, which aren't opposite. It's just opposite ends of the toroidal system itself. It's split like a donut, half a donut. That's why it looks like they're spinning in opposite directions, but they are part of the same system, you guys. Let's get with it. These are a lot of screenshots that I do of people's talks, and so I can use that, you know, in the way that I understand. Check this out, guys. This is proof, right? Measured up and down motion. Okay, this is what during what time of year? It's when it's in Cancer at the highest point. This is throughout and around the south, right? Travels around the south in right at the very. This thing keeps getting in the way. Right at the very tip of these little. Damn it! I can't, man. I'm sorry, guys. Let me chill for a second. Every time I move this mouse, it jumps around. Okay, so at the edges, or the top, I'm sorry, the top point of these little triangle looking things, at the point of it, that's the furthest, or I'm sorry, the lowest that the sun travels, right there at Capricorn. Or that might be even, ooh, I need to go back and revisit this. This might be the equator, you know, limit, right? And then down here is Capricorn. But let me revisit that. This has been a while since I've studied everything to do with the motion and function of toroid and donuts. There it is. That's a live picture. That's a real picture on the left. There's no bullshit in that. And it curves backwards. Okay? Ready to move on? Let's get to those toroidal storm pictures for y'all. That's a good representation of the Earth, how it functions. Okay, getting close to them, guys. Just wanted to go through here and give you a recap of what Can I have? Okay. Okay. There's a real picture on the left too there. It's a beautiful one. Maybe one day I'll just sit with y'all and go through some of my pictures, and explain that. Here's my living room. You want to see a picture of my living room or part of my living room? Let's watch this. In high definition, RG's living room. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie, but it's hilarious. Yep. There's my dad. What's up, Dad? I think I was trying to see. There's the map. See it in the. Damn it. Go back. I want to show it. Well, I got a picture of it somewhere. Anyway, all right. Let's get out of here. Let's get to the good stuff. The good pictures. Ta-da, close down. There's a lot of stuff here that I did. Oh yeah, check this out. See that picture? Okay, and you see the in. Why is this shit always popping up? You see the reflection right there? Trying to move quick. Let's pull it up and look. Let's see what this is, right? What is the reflection? I took a few more other pictures. There's the reflection. There's the reflection. What is that? Can anybody tell me? Man, dude, I put out a few of these. I watch like, dude, I spend so much time doing this for you guys. Um, I really hope that it's appreciated sometimes. But yeah, I'll watch and skip through. Here we go. Here we fucking go. Let's get it. See this? 1 a.m. on was it September 14th, 2025. Your boy was up looking, right? And where did I get it? I'll never tell you. I'll never tell you, but I'll go through with them, or with I'll go through them like with you. Okay? These are in a more of closer than you think. Let's just put it that way. Because why? Because everything's a toroidal process. You can't escape it. Okay? Look at this one branching off of the big one. It's fractal, guys. Fractal, fractal. You see all these little bitty, like Lichtenberg kind of things? Well, this is toroidal light. This isn't just movement. This is plasma. This is sentient. Shit. I wish my. Sorry, guys. My computer is sliding everywhere. Okay. Now, let's zoom in a little bit on these. Okay? I want to zoom in on this part where it branches. Click, click. No, no. What are you doing? Anyway, let me just zoom in. Hmm. I want it. It's left. No, 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 no. I want to go over. Here we go. So yeah, all these little guys here that are branched down and off, those are a copy of the whole, holographic. Okay? I'm sorry, guys. I know I'm disappointing on my experience with this stuff. There we go. Damn it. Dude, I'm about to freak out on this computer. Anyway, here you go. I know it's not as impressive as I wanted it to be because I'm getting aggravated with this. But, shit. Let me go back down. Bullshit, dude. Get out of there. These things, I don't understand my computer. Anyway, that's the one I was showing you right there. When you get in super close, it gets blurry, but the information's there. Okay. I hope this has been worth it for you guys to stick around this long. I mean, look at this coming in sideways. Now, here, these are like, let me make this clear. It's not, but it's very much like sprites. See this way in the background, this right here. Right in the background is, I swear I feel like someone's fucking with me right now. With my computer. Okay, so this is in an area, geez, please don't blow up, that this is not only, okay, let me just put it this way. I'm trying to make it quick. This is getting on my nerves. There is obviously a horizontal, okay, horizontal place, let's say, that is, oh my God, motherfucker. All right, guys, I gotta go. Fucking bullshit. This is fucked up. This pissing me off so bad. What the? Where the fuck is my shit at? What? Jesus. Help me, Lord. Lord, help me, Jesus. Oh, man. Anyway, okay. I'm just gonna not fucking move. You get it. This right here is hitting. This is the first surface, the highest surface. Okay? How do I know this? Because when you observe sprites that hit the firmament, they first light up from the firmament, from the source, and then they shoot downward. A lot of people think they go upward, but they don't. They are discharged, right? It's here on the ground is charge. People think that it's always neutral. Well, I mean, maybe there's places that just don't behave like we're used to. And I'll leave it at that. I gotta go before I cuss my computer out. Much love to everybody. Thank you for joining me, your boy RG, the host of the most. And yeah, man, we can get back to it another time, another day. Nothing but the shade. And I only grow stronger. I never fucking fade. But sometimes I get faded. I made it on my own. I don't really need y'all's input because my mind is always already strong. Man, it's been so long. I've been waiting on my turn. The way I spend money, it's fucked up because I get no return. But I don't need it. I never had to greet it. But I've been greeted by some of the coolest. Yeah. Anyway, all right. I can't run. I'm just talking shit. Where's my hold on one second. How do I cut this thing off? Dude, I done lost my StreamYard, boy. Come on now. Get on back here. Get on. Look at all of that power. Look at the layers, boys and girls. Isn't that cool? Don't you think toroids that are alive and sentient are cool? Look, it's a spaghetti noodle. 2, 3, 4 tentacle, 5 tentacles. What is it doing? What is it reaching for? I don't know, but it reached over here and got one of them. Ah, boy. Look at that right there, boy. That right there looks like a dragon or a snake coiling up out of there. What is that right there? That looks like a bacteria with ganglies and wanglies, panglies. Right, there you go. I promised you toroidal storms that are metaphysical that you can't see with your eyes. Boy, came through and delivered, just like pizza. Or, fuck that, dude. Now it's so weird. Delivered like Chinese. Damn, dude, pizza. Alright, dude. I'm getting weird now. See if I can find my StreamYard. Where did you go, StreamYard? And I'm looking for you. Why is it so hard to find? There we go. Alright. Much love. Peace. I know, look, it ain't nobody in there now letting them ran off. Alright. Oh shit, I never added it. Holy crap, dude. Let me come back over the comments. Did I just do the same thing where I'm supposed to be showing y'all something and it didn't show up? Man, I'm gonna be so embarrassed. This is the second time tonight. Okay. Not sharing. He used colored lasers. I was looking at his video to see if he got a rainbow indoors. Oh, I see. Yeah, if you bring sunlight, yeah, all day you can get one inside. All you need is a reflective surface, right? And yeah. He absolutely did that. Kim Ray, if you'll go back and look at the video, then you will see that. And sorry I didn't share. I feel like a butthole now. I didn't share the picture, so I'm gonna share it real quick. And if you guys want to come back and look at it, you can. Metaphysical toroidal storms in places that you've never been. Okay, here we go. I'm going to share this, and I'm going to go down to my picture, and hopefully you guys see it. Bam! Now, let's zoom in right here. Zoom in right here. Yeah, I can't zoom in forward because it gets super blurry. But let's do this. Metaphysical toroid storms that are uh sentient. Okay? Dude, I'm about to go crazy on this thing. Seems like when I want to zoom in, it just goes left and right. Alright, so click on zoom. I'm gonna look over here. I'm gonna get in closer if this damn thing will allow me to. No, I don't want. Dude, every time I move my mouse, this thing is getting old. Somebody please gonna save me, or I punch my damn laptop with my crippled hand. Okay, don't get smaller. I want to pull you over. There we go. Now, you guys start to see the pixelation here? So you know a lot of this is what it is. Now watch. Look at these. Ooh, don't move. See these layers? As this one branches off. Okay, I gotta go. See, as this thing branches off here, and it comes over here and it starts to coil, like I was describing about, you know how light always travels counterclockwise or right in room. Now look at this. As it goes around and round and round, it's like, okay, there's no ground here. Where do I go? Right? So it starts to hit over here, starts to branch out this way. Oops. And this way. You see, it was spinning here. You see the rotation? But then when it starts to get real small, then it's like, okay, well, where do I go? So you see those? Please don't move. Damn it, screen. See this starts to branch out again. It's reaching, it's growing, it's twirling, and just same thing over here. See, once this wave starts to end, it'll start fractalizing itself, start branching out and forming new parts. And this, my friends, is a very close and personal look. All right, very close and personal look. How close we can get before it just blurs out. But look at these little guys, right there, right there. This is beautiful, man. But it's very defined. You see these lines? These are them making themselves, right? They're self-similar with the spin. You can actually even see this inner column right there. I'm tracing it. All of these little bitty ones, it's like thicker. You can see more of it. Down. Nope, nope, not that way. Nope. Down. Oh no. But anyway, you get the point, guys. I can't really. There it is. Okay, you see right from here up and over. This side over here is thinner because this inner column right here is probably so strong and so dense that it's got no choice but to branch off, shoot over here. You see all this? This looks like what you look like what you look at when you're under a microscope, and these things burst. These toroidal, they form spheres. They pull together material to form spheres. You see how this is getting smaller and smaller and smaller, like it's about to start twisting there. Well, under a microscope, it does that, but right here where it opens and it starts to branch out, well, the sphere itself, this isn't a sphere, but under a microscope, the sphere will burst out in a toroidal motion. What I mean by toroidal motion is literally a tornado-shaped thing. So this is exactly what we get even on a grand scale. But right here, it starts to split off and form its own little tornado. And then it falls apart here and branches out again into a bunch of them. Look at this one, even seems like it's reaching to grab out, reaching out for the ground or something. All right, I'm getting tied up in this, guys. I got to go. I hope you all have a good night. And I truly mean that. God bless. God bless. God bless. Put my ugly mug back up here one more time. And let me get this rolling here. Let me get this rolling here. Watch this. Comments. I don't know. Yeah, comments. Thank y'all for being here. And thank you for letting me know I wasn't sharing. That right there was that was the end. That was the grand finale. So 3 hours, good enough for me. Here's the banner. Read it, weep it, and just know it. Make it a point every day to tell people that they're loved. Let's get up out of here. I have no Jefferson's music, but I have the sun and moon to show you. Here we go. Bam. Let's go. Peace.